Welcome to Inspire Campfire, a podcast where ordinary people tell their stories of extraordinary adventure. These are campfire stories meant to inspire the rest of us to light the fire within, get outside, follow our dreams, and return to tell our own stories. Ready? Let's strike the match.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Scott Wurzbacher, and today we're talking about taking passions and gifts and going big, really big with them. Have you ever met someone so good at what they do, they make it look effortless, leaving you wondering, how do they do it? Today, we're talking with one of those people. Joining us is Zack Luttrell from Charlotte, North Carolina, my hometown. He's an entrepreneur, an adventurer, and a community builder who has masterfully woven these roles together on a massive scale. Most recently, he and a partner took on an incredible challenge. They bought a sailing cruise ship and are bringing it back to life, launching a vision to build a new fleet for the next generation of sailing adventurers. We're going deep into both the nature and nurture of a big thinker to uncover how he makes things happen. I am filled with curiosity, admiration, and excitement to share this story. Zack, welcome to the campfire.
Hey, Scott, thanks. That was an awesome intro. I hope I can live up to all that. But no, I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, man. It's such a funny thing. We just met on a completely random encounter. We just started chatting. And in fact, I probably was just eavesdropping a little bit. And you caught my attention with, we bought a cruise ship. And from there, like, this incredible person and this big thinker that I'm starting to get to know is just begin to unfold. And so for listeners, Zack, I want to start right there. You bought what?
Well, it's funny that you say that because it's still a little awkward for me to say that. I think it sounds pretty ridiculous when you say it out loud, and I haven't mastered my 10 to 15 second intro pitch to explain exactly what we do. But on the surface, the easiest way to refer to it is, we bought a cruise ship recently, and it's a little bit more deep than that. I think a lot of people who have a history with the ship and also sailing schooners and that type of lifestyle would certainly correct me, and they think of cruise ship as the big foo-foo ships is how they refer to them, the
Sure.
the mammoth big cruise liners with 5,000 plus people on them. But this ship is a 3-mast sailing schooner. It's a tall ship. It is 236 feet long, and it has about 32 or so cabins, double occupancy. So, we're holding anywhere from 60 to 68 people. And then it's also got a crew quarter for up to around 30 crew member who live on the ship for the duration of their contract. So we, our partner and I, actually, he's had his eye on the ship, and it's a former sailing vessel of a company called Windjammer Barefoot Cruises, who has a long history in the cruise industry and really was the pioneer of sailing schooner cruise opportunities. And he, being from Miami, where they're from, just always had his eye on it and saw the whole demise and the ending of their company, as well as the success that they were having before. And once the ship became available in Grenada, he pounced on it and quickly called me and got me involved, and just pitched the idea. And similar to you, I was like, "You bought a what?" you're gonna have to tell me a little bit more about this. But naturally, I was intrigued, and here we are.
Wow, that's crazy. I just love this a little bit. It just blows my mind. There's history with Windjammer. I mean, I think that's a pretty recognizable name and brand. Can you talk a little bit about the history and how how you guys came to acquire this ship?
Yeah, so Windjammer operated sailing schooner cruises in the Caribbean. They were based out of Miami. I think they were in business for around 65 years. They were led by Captain Mike Burke, who was a pirate in its full essence. He loved being on the sea, and just really evolved this company to where at their height they had I want to say it was 6 different sailing schooners cruising various routes through the Caribbean. And they were in business until 2007. At that time, Mike Burke Sr. had taken a step back. He had six children who were all involved in the business, but it was a typical secession story where there was a lot of jockeying for control and undermining who was the current leader, and everybody wanted to be in the head position. Plus, from what I've heard, there was some irresponsibility fiscally about the way they were spending the company money, and how a lot of that was going towards their personal lifestyles and truly neglecting, their golden eggs, which were the ships themselves. So, ultimately in 2007, it came to an end, and it's a little unclear to me whether that was a bankruptcy, but either way, the company went out of business. The ships went their various directions, and out of the 6 original fleet, there are 2 that are remaining, and one is the SV Mandalay, which is the ship that we have purchased. The other is the SV Polynesia, which is a former Portuguese cod fishing vessel. And once Windjammer went under, Portugal came and took the ship back, and then she's actually sitting in their shipyard in Aveiro, Portugal. She's in pretty rough shape there, but I think part of in the back of our mind is the opportunity to potentially acquire her as well, and have both of the remaining Windjammer Barefoot Cruises vessels be a part of our fleet and our vision.
It's crazy. I have so many questions. This is just awesome. So, but as we focus on Windjammer, I think one of the things that's interesting is you mentioned that the previous Windjammer company had a bit of a cult following.
Oh yeah, and absolutely. And that was one of the things that I was drawn to about this opportunity. Once my partner Charles presented it to me, of course, I did some due diligence and really just tried to dig into the history of Windjammer, their story, what made them successful. And one of the things I stumbled upon was even present day, almost 20 years after the original company went out of business, there are groups primarily on Facebook of former passengers, people who just love the experience. It just means so much to them. They've created on their own different Facebook groups. There's a Windjammer Barefoot Cruises. There's actually a group dedicated to just the ship that we own now, the Mandalay. It's called the Remembering the SV Mandalay, where people are daily posting pictures from the old days and their experiences. And it has several thousand group members there, which is just impressive to me. So just seeing how they continue to just love the ship and love the culture and love their experiences. And even now, those people are obviously, a little bit, getting later into their life, but they're still connected on it, and they still live and die with updates for what's happening to the ship. And, someone recently posted photos from the Polynesia in Portugal. And of course, there's tons of engagement and interaction. So just seeing, the way that they loved it. Right. And I equate it very closely to like a parrot head from Margaritaville. In fact, the Windjammer group would call themselves the Old Salts, and on their own, they would keep tabs of which destinations they've been on, how many cruises they've been on, and almost like a badge of honor, they would discuss, almost like ranking and themselves of who's been on the most, who has the most experience, which captains they've interacted with, which destinations, what experiences. And it was just really cool to see them just have that close connection. And I think there's a lot of parallels with that, with other things that I've been doing of just creating that community aspect. Because I'll be completely honest, I don't know anything about this about sailing and about the Caribbean, and all that's very new for me. But having those parallels, the community aspect, and using the Caribbean and the ships themselves and the experiences that were created from those adventures, to me, those were things that I was drawn to that really resonated with me and overlap with some of the other things that I've done already.
Yeah. And just like for listeners, I hope you heard that. I don't know anything about the Caribbean or sailing, but I bought a cruise ship.
Yeah. Isn't that how you're supposed to do it? You just jump head first and go for it.
So I think what's so cool though, you said the ship can house 60 to 68 guests, 30 crew members, 100 people essentially. but yet you've already got this like established thousands of people that are like fans. Like, how cool is that? Like, I'm assuming that they're kind of very eager and interested in what y'all are doing so that they can get back into the game.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, after we acquired the ship, obviously that became big news with those
Yeah.
groups and everybody was talking about it. And you know, hearing our story, and we went publicly then with just some posts about our intentions and what we were trying to do. That was 18 plus months ago. And then we went through this lull where we were getting all of our ducks in a row, you know, doing a real thorough investigation and inspection of the ship to really understand the full parameters of what the necessary restoration would be. Um, because the ship, she's actually 102 years old. She was converted into a sailing ship 40 years ago. And, you know, since that time, she hasn't received the proper maintenance and care. And so once we started digging in and really taking a look, we just came to the determination that it's a complete renovation. It's a complete rebuild in order to bring her back up to those standards, modern day safety standards, but also putting in her position to go for another 40 years as a cruise ship. So that took a lot of time. But, you know, once we got that information back, obviously the budget was much more it was much higher than we had anticipated. So we really had to figure out what our direction was going to be, and you know, put together some solid forecasting of a business plan and what the true opportunity was. And then we had to start seeking some outside money and raising capital. So, you know, it was just interesting during that lull. You could see the former passengers getting very restless and wanting any kind of bit of information that we were able to share with them. But, you know, now that we've you know, started to actually see money come in from an investment side, and the restorations are starting to take place. You know, they're tangible things that we can actually start sharing and engaging with them now. And you know, I think everybody's really starting to get excited, where they never thought that they would ever step foot on the ship again, and you know, now they're going to have the opportunity to.
Yeah, 102-year-old ship. And you mentioned Captain Mike Burke. He was a true pilot. And I'm just curious, like, is this like looming in your mind, Zach? Like, is pirate part of your future?
Well, you know, it's funny. Like, my partner always talks about enjoying the Pirate of the Caribbean movies, and you know, always having that in his back pocket as a kid. You know, that being a dream of his. The ship actually, you know, has such a really cool history too, which I think is you know, an interesting part to tell. So it was originally commissioned by E.F. Hutton, which is a major name in the financial world. And he made it was a personal yacht for his wife, Marjorie Mayweather Post from Post Cereals.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was her yacht. And then she got to a point where the ship wasn't big enough for her as they started to increase their wealth. And she donated the ship, it was called the Verma at the time, to Columbia University. And the Verma has logged more than I want to say 1 million oceanic miles. And it's actually the ship where they discovered the continental drift theory. And this part's, I don't know exactly, but there are 4 different items, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the sea that were named after the ship because it was discovered through that oceanic research through the University of Columbia. Mike Burke acquired it from Columbia, and that's when it was converted into a sailing vessel, what it is now. So it's got an amazing pedigree, and you know, we want to cherish and keep that a part of her legacy as well as we continue to move forward, but also make it a little bit modern and, like I said, ramp up the safety aspects of it for our passengers as well.
So, like, as you're learning about all this, you know, you kind of alluded a little bit, 102-year-old ship. Like, what are some of the things that y'all are having to do to this ship? Like, what does the renovation process look like?
So what we've done now is we've done a lot of the we've been tearing things out. I mean, again, a remodel is we're taking it down to the studs. They're called the shipyard refers to it as descaling, but you know, the main thing, the initial thing is making her bring her down to her bare bones, really assessing the hull. I mean, the hull obviously is of major importance. So, we'll start there with that repair. But one of the most significant things that'll make it different now is just the technologies and advancements in materials. When you have a sailing ship, you want her to be heavy on the bottom and then, significantly lighter going up, so that way she can glide through the water and really take advantage of the sails in the wind. So right now, she's very heavy. There's metal, steel in between the floors, and things like aluminum now can replace those things, which are just as strong and durable, but significantly lighter. So that's one of the main things that we'll be working on, and just reconfiguring it to be more efficient. That also plays into fuel efficiency, but yeah, those are the big aspects. And then again, maintaining that really wooden feel. The ships were primarily wood, and they're known for their teak decks, and that's where barefoot cruises came from. I mean, the idea is
there you go.
You're walking around in your board shorts with your shirt off, with your rum swizzle in your hand, barefoot, walking around the decks of the ship. So keeping all that intact, but also making sure it's still modern and nice and elegant, and everybody will have a good time and enjoy themselves on it.
Yeah. So Zach, when you and I first met, you made a comment that stuck with me, that you much prefer board shorts and a t-shirt than a suit.
Yeah, that's just always kind of been my lifestyle. I don't mind dressing up and putting on a suit and going into the office if that's required. But if I had my choice, just working from my home office or a remote office, and in my my Roaring Riot shirts or Panther shirts, like that's my typical daily wardrobe, and my joggers or my gym shorts, basically.
I love it. Hey, so I'm curious. I want to kind of go back for a second on this, because I'm really curious about the dynamic between you and your partner. I think that he was the one that sort of like identified this, and I'm curious for him, and if you can. Was this something that was like a passion for him that he saw, or was it like, did he see it like as a business opportunity? I'm kind of curious, like, what was the spark that made him want to go, this is something I want to do?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great question. So, his name is Charles Kropke, and Charles owns the largest touring expedition company in South Florida. It's called Dragonfly Expeditions, and he's been in business for like 35 years running that company. And they do tours all over the Everglades, into the Keys, through various parts of Miami, and other areas of South Florida, and into the Caribbean too. And his vision has always been to provide these experiences for people by land, sea, and air. In addition to his tours, he was involved in a former company called Chalk's Ocean Airways, I think is the name of it, is a seaplane company.
Okay.
And so that was his venture into the air side of it, but the seaside was always Windjammer in his mind. And he tells a great story growing up in the Chesapeake Bay area, where a ship had gone by, and it was a sailing schooner, and people were outside on the top deck having a great time, enjoying themselves. And he looked down and basically was like, I want that. I want to do that. So yeah, it's been a dream of his, and it's definitely more of a dream and a vision and a passion than it is a business. Now, that doesn't mean he's not interested in the business side, but no, he's very much a historian. He's very much, an eloquent leader and speaker of history, and just authentic experiences that he likes to provide for people that he engages with, and he's very authentic and believable when he's delivering his message, and you can tell he's very genuine and cares about what he's talking about. And Windjammer and the Mandalay are no different.
Yeah. So, okay. So he comes to you with this passion, this opportunity, and you're the guy that's just like ready to go. And you're just like, yes. And I'm curious, like, are there any holes to fill in there, or is it just like, sure?
Yeah. I mean, he came to me because he's very much a visionary and much of dreamer, but he has known me for a while. And while I am a lot of those things too, I also have the ability to be the nuts and bolts portion of the partnership as well. And I can take the dream and then figure out how to put it together and how to roll it out and develop it, or determine maybe it's not something that's viable or worth exploring. And so he really came to me to kind of ground the opportunity with him, brainstorm, explore, create the vision, but also put together the pieces of, step one, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to roll it out. So, for me, I think at the time, I've been very fortunate and successful and happy with what I'm doing, and being able to build a career around something that started out as a hobby and a passion and something I look forward to doing every day, but also being drawn to this as a major challenge and something that's out of my comfort zone that does have parallels to what I was doing at the current time, but also it's just this completely different area with new sets of rules, new parameters. I'm still learning the geography of the Caribbean. I'm still learning the correct maritime terminologies for how you refer to the back of the ship, and so like there's a lot to learn, but I felt that it was exciting, and I felt like the opportunity to tell people that you bought a cruise ship doesn't come up very often, and it's interesting, and honestly, I believed in myself to take the chance, and that's what I did.
Oof. I believed in myself enough to take the chance. That's quotable right there, because I think that's so important. What's interesting is like this is just such big stuff, and I was like, listeners are getting this kind of the same way that I did when I first learned about you, and as you get to know Zack, you start to understand where the kind of experience came from that brought you to this point to where you're able to say yes to something like this and then dive in and do this stuff. And so we're going to touch on that, but I do want to just kind of finish up with the cruise ship. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about the sort of the long-term plan for the cruise ship?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're in the middle of a capital raise now. The first series of the raise is $9 million. And what that's going to allow us to do is to completely restore the Mandalay. It allow us to start the business, put together a reservation system, start our marketing. Actually, our director of marketing, who we hired, started this past Monday. So, she's our first employee, and she's incredibly brilliant, and I'm excited to be working with her. And she also has the same culture and understanding as we do, where this is very, very much a startup. It's very much you're wearing all kinds of different hats, and she has enough knowledge and experience, and definitely the desire to be involved in all the decisions and the formation of the company and our processes and our logistics. So really excited about that. But our goal here is to not just to have one cruise ship. Like we're restoring a cruise line. Essentially, we are, once Windjammer stopped operating, there's just been a hole in that segment in the cruising industry, and there are still opportunities for tall ship cruising, sailor schooner cruising, but they're geared to, I would say, more of a luxury brand, right? Like, right. And the culture that Windjammer had before, which, we want to take that positive equity of what they had and what made them so successful, was, it wasn't not luxurious. We are using more the term like elegance, but it was very laid back, and it was very casual, and it was very non-pretentious. And, you could have a CEO of the company standing next to the mechanic, who are having, a great time, again, getting their rum swizzles handed to them from Mash Up, the bartender, who's still the bartender for us. But it's just that easygoing culture, and you really feel like when you're on a Windjammer cruise that it's your ship. You take ownership over it. You interact with the crew. It's very casual at the dining experience. You might even be helping Boston, the chef, bring the food up to the top deck. And it's just that kind of feel where instead of going on a ship and being served and going to the restaurant with your waiter, you feel like you're pitching in and just like you're cruising around on a ship with all your buddies, and everybody's helping out. And so that's really what we're looking to tap into with what we're doing.
Yeah. What's the timeline?
So the timeline for the restoration of the Mandalay is about 15 months or so. We'll be building out the website and the reservation system, because just like any type of travel, people like to book as far out as they can to secure their spots. But once we have a firm in-water date, we'll start taking reservations. And to finish the thought too, is we're immediately coming back with a second part raise that will allow us to restore the second ship, as well as acquire the third ship. But our goal is to have anywhere from 5 to 8 ships. We've mapped out at least 10 unique cruise routes in the Caribbean, depending on hurricane season or not, where we could potentially have unique routes. that's very exciting. We have a lot of experience and friends who do cultural trips to Cuba. So, we very much are interested and have our eyes on Cuba as an opportunity to
Cool.
circumnavigate its shores. And, with things that are going on in there, and keeping an eye on their political situation, we do feel that maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, there'd be an opportunity to open up that for more tourism, which I
Cool.
think would
Yeah.
be a fantastic opportunity for people to get to explore the beauty of that country as well. So, our goal is to have a cruise line. It's not just a cruise ship that is fun to have. The next iteration will be telling people I own a cruise line, not a cruise ship.
So you're currently in the process of raising capital. Like, is there a opportunity for people to get involved?
Yeah, and actually, when we first started raising, we started out just privately and working through our network. But it just seemed really obvious that with the following of the former passengers, with the attention that they give the ship, even presently when it's non-operational, with Charles and my both of our backgrounds and the communities that we've built, and people that believe in us and trust in us and like to participate in what we put together because they know we're going to do a good job. It just seemed like it made a lot of sense to open that up to crowdfunding. So we actually switched, and we have a Reg CF is what it's called, which is a SEC regulated crowdfunding opportunity that is currently live. We partner with a company called Vicinity Capital out of Greenville, South Carolina. And they host it for us, and so it's been open. I want to say about a month so far. Crowdfunding has an annual cap of $5 million, and we're north of 3 million already in just 30
Cool.
days. So it's been really cool, and we built in a lot of fun perks too that we felt like the former passengers would enjoy, where it's permanent recognition, name recognition on the ship, just other various cool perks to just incentivize them to be involved too. But for me, my background being in football in the NFL, to me it was like the Green Bay Packers model, where the public owns the Green Bay Packers, and although the percentage that they own doesn't really equate to any distribution worthwhile, they can sit around and say that, hey, I own the Green Bay Packers. I'm
Yeah.
one of the owners of my favorite football team. So it's a very
Yeah.
similar situation where where the former passengers will have the ability to say that about their favorite ship as well.
That's awesome. How would people find out more?
Vicinitycapital.com is just their main landing page, and there's an offers tab, and our offer is the first one that you come to when you click that page.
Okay, cool. That's amazing. All right. So, again, just having this conversation, it's like, man, how does this guy think so big? But you said a couple of key things, having hobbies, having passions, having this desire to step out of your comfort zone. There's an origin story here for you. And I wonder if we can kind of go back in time a little bit and talk about where, sort of some of your first ventures started and how you've kind of come into this space of community building.
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of forced into it, and didn't really recognize it as something that I could turn into a career. I, I had a corporate job during the time of the recession, and just like a lot of people during that time, I was victim to the company layoffs. The company ended up going out of business, and it took me a while to understand what I was going to do. People weren't hiring at the time, and even really at that age, I couldn't confidently say what I wanted to do, what I was good at, what direction I wanted to go in. So I felt lost probably for about 8 months or so, and then I had been on the side for the past few previous years before that, putting together away game trips to Carolina Panthers games just for my friends. We had a big tailgate here in Charlotte, and we would go down to Atlanta every year because the Panthers play there every year. And then before that, I'd put together all-inclusive packages for a trip, 100 people to Miami, 2014, 100 people to Tampa. But, I was just doing that more for fun. I got to go for free and eat and drink for free, and that was good enough for me at the time. But it was in 2015, during that time that I was unemployed and pretty directionless, that it just kind of dawned on me. I'd always had the vision of just creating this network of Panther fans, And part of that was I lived in Philadelphia for a few years, and I tried to go find the Panthers on TV, and it was just a horrible experience. I'm by myself. I have the worst TV location in the bar. Of course, no sound. Eagles fans are throwing things at me. I mean, it was just like, I didn't want that experience for anybody. So I just had this overall vision of like, how can we create this network of bars so no matter where a Panthers fan was, whether they live in a certain city or they're visiting for a wedding, let's say, they could link up with other fans. And so then it just dawned on me in 2015 that, the way to do that was we created a membership program. And, it was an annual fee that we instituted then and to be a part of our organization. And every year we have a new t-shirt and a new theme, a new package that we send out with just various items. They could be patches, scarves, bandanas, just new things playing on what that theme for the season is. And that wasn't really done with the intention of creating a revenue stream. What it did though was it got all the people who were traveling with me or saw me as a travel agent to pay that fee. And now they're vested in being part of the group. They're now wearing our membership shirts. They're now identifying as part of the Roaring Riot, as part of the group. And they became, really like little salespeople, like getting other people involved, bringing their friends in. And that was how it all started. And that was how it all grew. And really just a year or two into it, that first year, once we launched it, we ended up with 2,200 members. So we went from 0 to 2,200 people that believed in it enough to pay $25 at the time and be a part of the group. And I think it was really the second or third year where it was really easy to see that what we were doing was building a community. We were using, of course, we were Panthers fans. Of course, we were going to games and we were tailgating and we were having fun. But really, the Panthers were just the medium that we were using to connect all these different people. And I think our tailgates in Charlotte, which are usually about 1,000 people, is a great testament to that. Because if you walk from side to side and just take a look at the different people, the different demographics, whether it's socio-eco levels or races or where people are from, it's just a complete mix and melting pot. And everybody's getting along, everybody's hanging out, everybody is just talking about their favorite team. And lately it's been about how disappointed we are in them, but that's still something to bond over. And that's really what it is. It's a big community and it's very supportive. We hold each other accountable to make sure we show up and we're out at the events. And traveling together as a big group is one of my most favorite things to do. I enjoy our away game experiences, as we call them. I enjoy those more than the home games. We just had 350 of us go over to Munich this past fall for the game, and being able to spend a week in Germany with 350 of my friends hanging out, staying in the same hotels, being on the same flights together, sitting at the games together, tailgating together. It's just an amazing experience, and it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you're feeling fire hosed right now, this is exactly how I felt the first time I talked to Zach. It's just like, so we go back to like pre 2015 while you were working in the corporate world. And this is where, like, when in my intro, I said, sometimes there are just people that are so good at what they do, they just make it effortless. You talked about, like, before you even went through that period of, you called it that 8-month period where you felt lost. You were like, you had created these tailgates and you were like, I think you said you had like 100 people that would travel with you to games. Just that in itself, like, you were like, oh, it's no big deal, I just want to go for free. But that's a big deal. and I think it's so cool. This is just, you're a Panthers fan, and I wore my shirt for you today.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. But you're a Panthers fan. You love the team, you love the game, and you love, like, having that be kind of the central focus of this community, and you've built this community around it. And it was just something that you did naturally. And it wasn't until you kind of had this need with losing your job that you're like, wait a minute, I could probably turn this into something that could help, my livelihood and help my current situation. So to me, that seems like it's exactly what you did. And then once you kind of stepped over the threshold, the thing just took off.
Yeah, and that's why I said I kind of just happened into it, like, unintentionally, because those things that you mentioned have just always come naturally to me. And sometimes I almost look at it as a negative, where, like, I like to have my influence on the event and the party. But I go into doing that because I feel like I'm doing it with the intention of making sure everyone is enjoying themselves and everyone is having the most fun they possibly can. And I mean, really, that started in college. I was a DJ in college, and I threw parties in college, and just that was just, it was fun, is what I like to do. I like music. I like, my favorite thing was being up in the DJ booth, and I would take a risk. I'm like, I wonder if this song will work right now. And then just hearing a positive reaction from everybody on the dance floor. It was like, like me being a extroverted introvert, I wanted to be at the party, but I was very happy isolated up in the back of the DJ booth. And that was the adrenaline rush that I would get. I didn't need to be on the dance floor, but hearing everybody have a good time and taking a chance at playing a song that may or may not work and having a positive reaction, it really started then. But I never looked at it as, making a career out of it. And when I tell people now, even before Windjammer, when I was focused solely on football and those experiences, I would just tell people I tailgate for a living. And just a lot of times people are envious of the opportunities I get. We travel a lot. Now we focus a whole lot of our business on the NFL international games. So, they see me going to Sao Paulo, Brazil. They see me going to Munich. They see me going to London this year, Dublin, Madrid. And they almost don't take it seriously, which to me, that's honestly a compliment, because one, I know how hard we work, certainly during football season. I mean, it's nonstop. It's 7 days a week and, 10 plus hours a day, every single day. And we're answering calls and emails, no matter what time it is. It's just the nature of a seasonal business like that. But for people to see what I'm doing and think it's just, it's not realistic, it just doesn't make sense to them. I love that. I love that it's something that's just been a passion, and it's been fun, and people look at it as a recreational opportunity, but yet, somehow we've been able to monetize it and build a career at it, but still deliver these incredible experiences that people talk about all the time and how meaningful and impactful it is for them.
Yeah. And I would just love for people to kind of understand the magnitude of what you've created. And so you did mention it. I think you mentioned Roaring Riots, but the name of the company is Roaring Riots. It's you tailgate for a living, as you said, but not just here in Charlotte, you tailgate all over the place. And you've also as it relates to this podcast, we love adventure. We love travel. You've integrated travel into this whole experience. And you mentioned Munich, but there's been a number of trips that you've curated for hundreds of people. I wonder if you could just kind of hit a couple highlights of some of those trips that you've curated through Roaring Riots.
Yeah, it started in 2019. The Panthers played their first game over in London, and we took 1,000 fans over for that, which is extremely daunting thought, going into it. Because of our experience, we had some really good connections, and we knew that the game was coming, so we were very prepared. The moment it was announced, we turned on our deposits for the trip, and within 30 minutes we were at 500 deposits, and my partner Josh and I looked at each other and we were like, can we manage 500 people in London? Like, this is a whole different animal. I mean, we've both been there, we have experience, but like taking people on a week-long international trip versus 3 days in Tampa are two completely different things. So we turned off deposits, went over to London and made sure we were confident in what we were going to be able to do and what those numbers are. Came back, turned them back on, ended up with 1,000 people. And I mean, it went flawlessly. It was just absolutely amazing. Even to this day, 6 years later, people still talk about that trip. So people that didn't go, they made sure they were in front of the line to go to Germany, which was the Panthers' next trip. But yeah, we saw that coming out of COVID as a real opportunity to help other groups. So that's what we focus with the international games. This is not just the Panthers. We help other travel groups manage their international travel, and that's it. Just we love that there because it's exciting. No matter what current state the team is in, people are excited to travel abroad. And just getting to watch your favorite team, in a completely different country, a different culture, and a lot of times a different language. It's just a really, really cool experience. But for me to be able to be in the background, again, kind of like my DJ days, I lay out the framework. I put together the hotels and the travel and the events and the tickets to the game. But then I allow the group itself, the leaders, to be, the frontliners, the headliners. I just make them look really good to their group. And to me, that's the adrenaline rush. That's the passion. That's where it brings me joy, is to be in the back of the room watching several hundred Kansas City Chiefs fans have a blast in Frankfurt, and that their leaders are the heroes, and I could help them pull that together. It's just been a ton of fun.
Yeah, and you've gotten recognition from the team, from players. You know, I mean, this is not just a group of people that are kind of watching from the sidelines. I mean, can you talk about some of the recognition that you've gotten?
Yeah, one of my core philosophies is keeping the group together, specifically at the game. Of course, we want to try to get the best tickets that we can, but sometimes that's the upper deck, right? And what I always tell people is the experience being on the road, sitting with several hundred fans all together in one section, even in the upper deck, is just something you can't get on your own. Like, if you want to go to the game, you and your family, of course you can buy club level tickets or lower level tickets, but there's just something about being in an away stadium where in football, the home team's fans are always quiet when they're on offense. But here we are, the opposing team's fans, where our team's on defense, and all of a sudden there's 300 of us chanting and screaming, and you can just see the section and the people downstairs turning around and looking, and that's some of the feedback that we've gotten from players too, where either they react on the field and physically look up and find us and acknowledge us. That's happened a lot, and we had a real close relationship with Cam Newton while he was here, and we had an event with him, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'll never forget what he said is, when he shows up to a game, he first finds out and sees where his kids are sitting, and then he looks and he finds where his parents are sitting, and then he looks and finds where the Roaring Riot is sitting.
I love that. That is so
amazing.
It gives me chills. Like, that is so cool. It's just so cool. So, again, this is where like you're following this passion, you're building a community, you're always getting better, getting outside of your comfort zone and looking how to grow things. We can talk for hours. I just love this so much. I do want to talk, like, your mom was an event planner, and I wonder if you could kind of tell us a little bit about how, like, her influence plays into your story.
Yeah, it's always been her passion. I mean, she's natural and at it. She's a natural. I mean, she's still doing that today. When I spoke about Cuba, I mean, she's the one who puts these Cuba trips together, and I've gone with her on them, and honestly, anything that she does is 10 times better than anything that I've been able to do. But just helping her at a young age, just seeing some of the things that she did to pioneer opportunities to host people and to bring them together around events. I think that just kind of organically rubbed off on me, even though I didn't feel like at that time, as a teenager, that I was watching what she was doing. I think just because we share the same blood, some of it comes naturally, but also just being in that environment and picking up from her and just seeing how diligent she was, and how meticulous she is and details, and how over the top she would go to produce these incredible experiences. I think that just rubbed off on me, and I give her all the credit for that. And it was my own evolution to kind of figure out that, like, oh wait, no, I can actually make this into a job, into a career. But it's definitely all the credit to her for instilling those things inside of me.
I'm curious if, like, you think that influence and just being around that environment, like growing up, kind of started you off sort of at a different level than you might have otherwise started off at. And I guess to elaborate, I guess where I'm going with that is, like, I think about, like, adventure, and the big one is like Mount Everest for adventure, right? Like, you might see Mount Everest and be inspired by it, but you don't just show up and climb Mount Everest, right? It's like a progression. And I'm just kind of curious, like, in your life, like, as I've kind of gotten to know you, I can see how there's been this progression to sort of build up to where you are today. And I guess I'm like, it's inspiring to see that. It's also, like, for people listening, for people like myself, it's like, how can I jump in and continue to level up what I'm doing to do increasingly bigger and bigger things? Does that make sense? I'd love to just get your thoughts.
Well, it definitely started with her. I describe myself as an extroverted introvert before, but
I love that term.
She's the one that encouraged me and got me started DJing at a young age. I think it was really my senior year of high school into college, but I was very fearful at first, being the center of attention almost at a, having all the pressure of throwing that party and making sure someone's birthday party or their wedding was going to be a good time. Like I was scared to death, and it took me doing it a few times to really realize like, okay, like I'm actually pretty good at this. And, I would evolve and started doing more bars and clubs in college and, just had that confidence, because of her. But, I think that relates to everything I've done since trying to make this a career. We constantly are thinking, what can we do more? What can we do better? How can we benefit people more? Like, what do the fans want? How can we give them more access to players or better seats or sideline passes or bring them closer together as a network? And, it's just, we're constantly trying to evolve, and we're never satisfied with just any level of success that we've had. We always wanted to do more and do better. And I think that's what gave me the courage to make this huge jump to to owning a cruise ship, without having that experience. I think to chase your dreams and to make things that are hobbies and recreational entertainment type entertainment things to most people, making that your career, you have to have that confidence, and you have to have some failures, but you also have to learn from those and really realize and trust in yourself that you're going to be able to figure it out, that how to figure it out. And that's how I was when I made this leap. There's enough parallel to what I've done and the things that I don't know. Like, I know that I'll figure those out. And so that's what enabled me to jump into this without having any hesitation or fear. And I just bet on myself, and I know I'll do it.
Yeah. And what's so cool about this, like we talked about this a little bit before, but like, you're a community builder, and like people are wondering like, okay, he's a football fan, he's got this tailgate company now like he's buying a cruise ship, but I think you talked about the fact that it's like really all just about building communities. Like for the tailgate, the Panthers was the central focus. Like now it's this ship, and that project's just getting started. So like, what's so cool is like, if people are intrigued by this ship that you guys are restoring, and then you look at your track record with what you've done for the members in Roaring Riot, like translate that over to the cruise ship. Like, man, I want to be on that ship. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's just really creating those real, genuine, authentic experiences. And, I always tell the story that I actually did a Panthers cruise on one of the big ships a couple of years ago. And I just remember very vividly getting off in Cozumel. And as soon as you get off, there's a Senior Frogs where they're blowing whistles and there's loud dance music and they're throwing test tubes of tequila down your throat. And it's just a shopping mall with t-shirts and trinkets. And to me, it was like, what is this? Like, this is what I came to, this is the experience at Mexico. And the benefit of what we're doing, and another draw to it is, we can go into ports that the big cruise ships can't. We can show, we can go to Cozumel, but give you a completely different experience than you have, going into the main ports. So, and then that's my partner, Charles, his background too, with creating the tours and the expeditions that he does. Everything is real, everything's enriching, everything's genuine. And that's just going to be a huge part of the experience that we want to create, is just giving you something that you can't do on your own, that's going to affect you and make you feel a different way. Then, don't get me wrong, I love test 2 shots of tequila too, but like that's not what we're going to get, and not what we're going to provide.
Yeah. Hey, so I can't do this conversation without just touching on one thing that's just so evident and apparent to me between like being a Panthers fan, tailgating, like, traveling on a cruise ship, like in the Caribbean, board shorts, t-shirt. It seems to me that fun is a central element to everything that you do. And I just wondered if you could touch on that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. And it's not anything that I've thought about as I've developed all these different things. I mean, they're definitely activities that mean a lot to me, and I like to do myself. And, I've known by doing them at whatever level that, there are plenty of other people that enjoy it too. So I think it's just kind of naturally worked itself out that way. And we want to have fun. I think having fun is an important part of everybody's lives. And so if we can find a way to do that bigger and better and with more people. And yeah, that's always one of the things that hits me the most when I hear from my Roaring Riot members. And maybe they've moved to Atlanta and they didn't know anybody, and they connected with our group there, and now they have tons of friends that they watch all the Panthers games with on Sunday, but they also do different things throughout the year. And I've had just many different variations of a similar story like that, where people have been impacted personally and emotionally by the connectivity of the group. And to me, with the obvious is going to a tailgate, listening to music, getting ready to go watch a football game is fun, but being able to positively affect people like that, that's the real fun.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's, my question about fun really at the central core of that is like human connection.
100%. I mean, that's the fuel that drives us to keep it going, and
it's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's absolutely brilliant. I've been smiling ear to ear for this whole episode. I love it so much. How can people find out more about you, Roaring Riot, the ship?
So let's see, the ship, if you want to know more about that, we're at gowindjammer.com. We're just starting to put everything together. I mean, we really are just out of the gate here in the last couple of weeks, so things are going to start rolling. But we're beginning the process of building that site. It's more just a landing page now, so you can certainly subscribe, and we're sending out some emails as we're getting information. And we've decided to create a 6-episode series on the restoration of the Mandalay. So we're gonna document the next 15 months and all the different aspects of that. So it'll be a really cool story that we're going to tell there, that we think needs to be told, and it's very important.
That's awesome.
The Roaring Riot is just roaringriot.com, and we're starting to enter the beginning of football season, meaning it's the draft and the schedule release, and then training camp starts. So really in May is when things start ramping up for us. Our new membership packages go out then, and it's kind of the beginning of the year for us, because as soon as we already know the Panthers opponents, and they've got some good destinations this year, but once those dates are published, then people start getting really excited and start picking out which trips they're going to go to, and everybody's coordinating who's going where and who's going to go together. So all that starts pretty soon too.
Yeah. And you have a new personal website, and it looks great.
Yeah. I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm just doing so many different things. And as I mentioned earlier, like I'm still really starting to practice like explaining what it is, because I don't have a good pitch. I don't explain it well, and it doesn't come out very well. So I played around with the idea of just creating my own personal brand page that I can store all the various projects that I'm working on, and share photos and updates and things there. So I mean, that's just ZackLuttrell.com, and
it looks great.
Yeah, just starting to play around with it and put it out there. But I thought it was a great place to just really encapsulate all the different things that I'm working on into one umbrella, one site.
Yeah. And speaking of all the different things that you've been working on, I mean, such a big thinker, and you're so humble about it, but it's big stuff. And this, this Windjammer thing is going to be huge. I want to be on that ship. Like I'm going to be watching, like I want to go on a cruise on this ship. But eventually Hollywood is going to pick up on this story, and they're going to want to make a movie about you and your life. And I want to know, when they do, who's going to be the Hollywood actor that's going to play you in your movie.
Oh man, you saved the tough question for the end. If I had to answer, and this is tough for me to do, because I do feel very humble and don't like to associate with a Hollywood actor, but I get Bradley Cooper a lot.
Nice.
And,
okay.
from a looks perspective, but then I also thought about the characters that he plays, and there's usually a lot of charm and wit to them, but there's also some grit, and I feel like a lot of times he's cast in a leadership role.
Yeah.
So I like to think that really encapsulates a lot of my personality as well.
Yeah, that's a good choice for you. I like it a lot. It's really good. What's your movie going to be called?
That one's a little bit tougher for me. I was trying to think of some different ideas, and I don't know exactly what it would be, but I think it's something in regards to chasing the horizon, right? For me, I was trying to pull in something that related to a nautical theme, and I kept coming up with the horizon where the water and the water line and the sunset or the sunrise meet. But also for me, the horizon is kind of never ending. You can't really necessarily get there, but it's always exploratory and what's beyond, what's next, and kind of chasing, that destination beyond. So that's kind of what hit me, and when I was thinking through it.
I love it. So good. I'm going to be an Oscar winner. Chasing the Horizon. It's going to be awesome. Matt, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. And for those listening, I hope you've been inspired today as much as I have. I hope Zack's story has encouraged you to listen to the voice inside that calls you to adventure, because we want to hear your story next. If you have a story to tell or just need a nudge to create one, please send me an email. We'd also appreciate it if you'd help us spread the word by leaving a review and sharing or tagging Inspire Campfire in your social media. And until next time, I want to encourage you to get outside. Thanks for listening, Zack. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I loved it. Thanks, Scott.